Let's get in our guest to try and talk about what to do in a scenario like this. Kunal Shah, Senior Technical and Derivative Analyst at LKP Securities on the technicals and the derivatives side, and Dharmesh Kant, Head of Equity Research at Chola Securities on the fundamentals. Gentlemen, good afternoon, both of you. Thanks for taking the time out. Kunal, we've been getting this response from most experts on the opening of the closing show about not quite seeing the need to trade the index because the index is doing virtually nothing and keeping it very stock specific. Is your approach the same?
What I think exactly that is what we are seeing in the markets. There is a sector-specific approach which is working out. If you look at the headline index, Nifty, Bank Nifty, they have been just been consolidating more rates. However, if you look at the larger undertone for the market, it's still remains bullish from me. For me, Nifty has to give a closing about 22,200.
I have to come in there, Kunal, I have to come in there because I think we're getting your audio slightly glitched. We'll just try and get that corrected.
Sorry, Kunal, you have views on these before I take your views with regard to the market.
So firstly, if I look at the technical chart of CMS Info, I think recently the stock had been a very good outperformer, but in the recent time the stock has went into a big consolidation phase, and the upper end resistance for the stock is placed at 400. So once it surpasses that 400 mark, we could see a quick rally towards 440, 450 level. That is a 10% kind of a move. However, the stock is taking a support at its 20-day moving average, which is placed at 375. So as long as 375 is sustained on the downside, one could continue to hold on to their long positions, or even on any dips can add fresh long positions, keeping that 375 as a stop loss and looking for upside first target of 400. And once that is taken out, 440 will be on the cards very soon.
Okay. Kunal, before we talk about the markets at large, your stock ideas for the day?
So firstly, we have seen, as we mentioned in the start of the show, there has been sector-specific action where we have seen the markets consolidating, but some of the sectors doing very well. So I have a bullish view on power as well. I think from the current levels, even power sector could do well. One specific stock which I would like to highlight over here is Power Grid. Power Grid, you have already seen that the stock on the technical chart has been trading in a strong uptrend. Higher high, higher low formations are intact. The stock is trading above its 20-day moving average, so that's a short-term moving average support what it has. And 300 is likely on the cards very soon, currently trading somewhere around 290, 291 zone. So one can initiate long positions, keeping a stop loss of 280, 300 downside, looking for targets of 300 on the upside. So Power Grid would be my first pick. Second will be TCS. As you have seen, finally, the stock has seen some momentum buying in today's trading session. And even on an intraday chart, you can see there's a breakout which is clearly visible on the chart as well. So one can initiate long positions in TCS as well, keeping a stop loss of 3950, looking out for targets of 4,400. This will be for a 1 to 2 day kind of perspective, where we can see the momentum building up in TCS.
Okay, well, clearly we're starting to see some kind of gains that we've seen on TCS today. But remember, a lot of fair degree of shorts that were built up, I think, over the last week on these IT names. Just wondering, Kunal, just before we move on, IT had seen short positions built up, right? So what does a move like this, if it continues, do for some of the stocks on which there were shorts for the current series?
So I think since we are heading towards the expiry firstly, so I think a lot of positions will get rolled over there. So the current month position will continuously get squared off. But on the next expiry, I'm not seeing any fresh long rollovers happening on the short side for TCS and specifically for IT counters. So I think this could be a good short covering move, what you'll be getting over here in IT space. And the broader Nifty IT chart has again given a bounce from a critical 20-day moving average. So I think you have a support on the IT index, plus the stocks are again showing some momentum. So TCS something which could do very well in the near term.
Sure, thanks for that, Kunal. We've kind of covered most of the bases when it comes to IT. We'll quick.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Mihika. So do watch out. Remember, OMCs, while they had a good day in trade yesterday, in today's session, some of them are definitely sulking. So it's a chicken and an egg simply because of the move that they've already had thus far, and independent of the valuation, could they maybe see a bit of a corrective move? I think that is the question on most minds. Maybe a tech and a funda check before we take that break. Kunal, firstly, how would you trade BPHP IOC?
See, firstly, Neeraj, I would like to talk on the Nifty oil and gas chart. So the breakout what we had got earlier, post that we have seen a spectacular rally. Now, the overall structure for the oil and gas is still in a bullish structure, but every bullish structure will have a corrective phase. So I think this corrective phase is likely to go a bit lower as well. So I think this is not the right time to enter into these counters. You might still get them at lower prices. So whether it's an IOC, BPCL or an HPCL, even from the current levels of 4 to 5% downside is possible from the current zone, where I'm seeing the momentum getting lost. So the momentum will again come back once those correction gets over. So my preferred pick in this space would be IOC, which is looking very attractive on the chart. So currently trading at 173. So if you get anywhere a dip towards 165, 166 zone, I think that would be a very good entry point where you can again initiate long positions. Then 158 is a very strong support on the downside. Post that level of 158, we saw a quick rally towards that 180 mark on the upside. So I think again we will get a sharp bounce from those levels. So 165, 166 is what somewhere should be interested in buying. Again, you can see upside 175, 176 clocking in the very short term.
Okay, fundamental. And amongst the other things where we're seeing some good action, to be honest, today is in the insurance space. Not just today, the last few days. In today's session, I think ICICI General Insurance seems to be doing okay and on pretty decent volume because of the blocks as well. But just look at the kind of moves that some of these stocks are doing. Now, Kunal, coming on this PSU insurers, and what do you find on the charts for some of these?
See, I think if you look at Neeraj General Insurance, they have been doing extremely well, whether it's a GICRE or an NICL or a ICICI Lombard. So I think this up move is likely to continue. I think ICICI Lombard still has upside left from the current levels as well. So I think it was one of the beaten down stocks, and now it has seen a very good recovery in the last 1 to 2 months. So the trend is quite positive. We are having an uptrend where high low formations are intact. On the daily chart, we got a fresh breakout in today's trading session. The momentum indicator, that is the RSI, is crossing above the levels of 75.80. Now this can go up to 85.90 as well with the kind of strength what it had. So even from the current levels, you could have a good BTSC trade as well. 1726 is where it is trading currently. So at the current market price, or if you get any dip, even in the next half an hour or so, utilize that dip to buy. Keep a stop loss on the downside around 1706 and look for targets of 1760 to 1785 on the upside.
Sure, point taken. Kunal, I just want to quickly ask you for your views with regard to a couple of sectors which are doing fairly well. You're seeing a good 0.5% gain on the Nifty Pharma, % up on the Nifty Realty. These are sectors where or rather Realty more than Pharma, but we've seen good traction in some of these sectors. How are you viewing it at the current juncture on charts?
So I think if you look at the sector-specific approach, Nifty Realty still looks good and strong from the current level. So there is still some upside left over there. So Realty could continue to outperform going forward as well. But one sector which I would like to highlight over here, where I can see a decent upside, is infra. So infra as a space, that is a Nifty infra chart, has again given a fresh breakout here, and infra stocks could do very well in the next 1 to 2 weeks as well. So that is one sector which I'm extremely bullish on. You can, on a sector specific or on an index perspective, you can easily get a 3 to 4% kind of a move on the very short term, which equals to at least 8 to 10% kind of move in stocks as well. So infra is something which I'm very bullish on, and this could do very well in the next 1 to 2 weeks.
Sure, point taken. Thank you. Let me quickly, so much for that, Kanaka, really summing up that note. Let me go across to Dharmesh, taking his views with regard to Cello. Dharmesh, before that, do you at all cover Cello?
No, Harsh, we don't cover it.
Okay.
Though we have initiated research on the entire space,
Sure.
but right now we don't have a recommendation.
Sure. Point taken. Okay, let me go across then to Kunal. Kunal, I know it's a bit of a new listing, but in terms of charts, whatever limited visibility we have with regard to charts, what's the sense like?
I think, yes, exactly what you said, that the data is very less, but whatever charts I have, what I can point out is that in today's trading session, the stock has given a gap up and there's a breakout in the stock. The most important part is that it needs to sustain above this levels. So 850 was a resistance which we surpassed in today's trading session. On the technical chart, there is also a falling trend line breakout what we have got. Now, sustaining above 850 is very, very important. So as long as we stay above this level, I'll be bullish. On an immediate basis, we can see a target of 910 to 930 on the upside. So even if you are holding, carrying long positions on the gap up, keep a stop loss of 850 on a closing basis. So anytime the stock gives you a closing below 850, then you can unwind your long position.
Sure. So
I think Jeffries is talking about as the target price for Dixon as well. So keep that at the back of your mind. So that's, a name to focus on for sure. Another stock, of course, I mean, we spoke about how Cello World has been buzzing and that stock was active in the morning. So that's to be kept in mind. But so some winners and some losers. Kunal, can I come to you on Dixon? It's a derivative play as well. Do the charts look weak?
Yeah, I think if you look at Dixon, it has been one of the outperformer. Recently, the stock had given us a strong breakout and there was a follow-up move which is there. Now, based on the reports what we have got by the Jeffries, we have seen some correction on the downside. The momentum is definitely getting lost because what has happened that the stock has been making a higher high formation, but the momentum indicator, that is the RSI, is not showing me strength. In fact, it is showing me a negative crossover as well. So if we sustain below this mark of 6,900 now, which has become a strong resistance, we might see this correction going towards the levels of 6,500, which is the next support where the 20-day moving average also lies. So I think today, if you look at a daily chart, probably we will have a doji candle kind of a close, so clearly an indecisiveness on a day trade basis. But if tomorrow we continue to trade below today's low, then this fall will get aggravated toward that 6,500 mark. So the structure looks weak. I'll be a wait and watch on this for tomorrow's trading session. If the follow-up selling pressure continues, then I'll be probably selling this Dixon, looking for targets of 6,500 on the downside.
sure, thank you for that, Kunal. Dharmesh, I want to come back to you. You spoke about valuations being slightly elevated. I want to try and zoom in on a couple of PSU banks which are all set to raise money.
Some bit of actually a bounce back from the lows of the day for most of these, but certainly Adani Energy Solutions is down. Adani Energy is down about 5% for that one, and Adani Enterprises too in today's session was amongst the key losers in the session. So that's to be kept in mind. Some which are doing well include a RailTel, has a smart move today. RailTel does so. Big uptick there, 10.5% on very high volumes, I might add. So RailTel is certainly a stock to focus on. There is Intellect Design Arena, which is up about 8%, and therefore a stock to focus on as well. So 2 or 3 names, which are Mahindra Logistics is the other one, which is up about 10% as well. So pretty good moves into some of these. Any thoughts on this, Kunal, on the charts? Any of these 2-3 names?
See, I think firstly, if I talk about railway as a sector, earlier we had seen the entire pack moving together. Now that will not be the case going forward. You will have certain outperformance by certain stocks, while the other stocks will keep on lagging on the downside. So I think if we talk about RailTel, I think a very good strong breakout what we have already got in today's trading session. I would not be a buyer at the current market price. Probably a day or two before I would be a very good buyer at the price at which it was trading. So for me, currently 455, 460. This could be a good zone where you can enter into long positions. That's a very strong support for the stock. So if you get any dip towards that support zone, utilize that to buy. The stock might hit that target of 500 on the upside on the technical chart. The indicators are showing some good momentum building up. Both the RSI and MACD are giving me a positive crossover. So this will eventually touch the levels of 500. but not a buyer at the current market price. 455, 460 is the zone where you could enter. Keep a stop loss of 440 on the downside.
Sure. Let me switch it over. I want to, try and flag off something like a DCM Shriram, because that one has, in fact, gotten approval from the board for entering business into advanced materials, or rather venturing into the advanced materials business. It's a downstream business for them. Stock down roughly 2%, and 1,000 crore is to be invested in epoxy resins downstream products business. Let me quickly take it across to Kunal first on charts. I'm not sure if Dharmesh actually tracks this, but Kunal on charts, any views on this one?
So I think looking at the long-term chart, DCM Shriram doesn't look very attractive to buy at the current levels. In fact, we can see some correction going on the downside. If I look at the weekly chart as well, there has been multiple rejections around that zone of 220, and the stock has not been able to surpass that mark. So I think more correction on the downside, the stock could come around 195, 190 zone. So I think not a buy at the current level for sure. If you are holding it from lower levels, one can start booking profits, but not to initiate fresh long position.
Okay. Before you take in the closing strategies,
interesting, they've also got a sanction and disbursement of 200 crore from IREDA for onward lending to either e-mobility sector. So interesting play there, and the stock is up and away in trade at least today. But let me quickly take it across to Kunal. Kunal, top BTST ideas.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned in the show as well, infra as a space is looking very good. So that is where my eye would be on. The stock which I would like to highlight over here will be from the cash market, and the name of the stock is KNR Construction. I think after a long underperformance, the stock has finally given a strength breakout in today's chart. So I think the stock has surpassed its 20-day moving average as well, and the stock is on the verge of another falling trendline breakout as well. So 280 is where currently the stock is trading. The 20-day moving average on the downside is placed at 273, so that will be a stop loss on the downside. One can look for first target on the upside of 292, and second target should be 300 on the upside.
okay. Kunal and Dharmesh, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in today and giving us your thoughts. Really appreciate your time. Let's start wrapping up the markets.